If a director at Energia mispronounces like a single vowel in the boardroom, it doesn't just cause momentary confusion.
No, absolutely not.
Right. It can actively undermine a multi-million-dollar negotiation. You spend weeks building authority, but one phonetic slip-up can immediately distract the entire room. So welcome to Acad FM.
Yes, welcome.
Created by Academia BSB, this is our English Conversations course, Deep Dive, and today is Monday, April 6, 2026.
And look, it's just the harsh reality of corporate optics, isn't it? You can have the most brilliant strategic mind in the energy sector, but if your delivery lacks precision, your authority is compromised.
Yeah, totally.
And that is exactly why we are speaking directly to you today, Lilian. Yes, Mrs. Quairox, a 47-year-old director managing major operations at Acad Energia, while frankly, simultaneously navigating the absolute logistical gauntlet of raising 2 toddlers.
I don't know how you do it, honestly, but we are looking at your journey through the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, the CEFRL. Right now, Lilian, you are pushing against the B1 plateau. This is that frustrating middle ground where you know enough to survive, but, the goal is B2 and beyond.
And to get there, basic vocabulary simply won't cut it anymore.
Exactly.
Breaking through B1 requires internalizing the nuances of corporate vocabulary to the point of reflex. You cannot afford to translate in your head. So today, we're analyzing your class notes from March 31st to April 3rd.
Yep. We're examining the linguistics of your daily grind, both as an executive and a mother, to find those critical leverage points. And we're anchoring all of this in the real world.
Always.
Because, looking at the data, the demand for precision in your language mirrors the demand for precision happening at your company right now. I mean, Acad Energia just signed an incredible $290 million RIA's cooperation agreement with ANA.
Yes, the National Water and Sanitation Agency.
Exactly. This isn't just some basic upgrade. They are modernizing the National Hydrometeorological Network across the San Francisco, Parnaíba, and Furnace basins.
Well, it is a massive data acquisition play. They are implementing automatic monitoring stations to, overhaul the entire data management system.
Which is huge.
It is.
Yeah.
Domingos Andreada, your director of engineering, explicitly stated that this telemetry expansion is vital for predicting extreme weather events. It's about removing uncertainty.
Removing uncertainty. That is the perfect way to look at the vocabulary from your current class notes.
I agree.
You're dealing with words that define your operational reality, Lilian. Words like headquarters, branches, assessment, amenities, and to be self-employed.
So let's break down the mechanics of these terms. Headquarters, for instance, is the central nervous system of your company. It is not just an office.
Right. It's much bigger than that.
Exactly. Branches are the subsidiaries. And an assessment is a formal, rigorous evaluation. If you tell a stakeholder you are doing an assessment, it signals a methodical process.
Because if you just say you're going to, take a look at it.
It's like an intern. Frankly, you do. Amenities are the infrastructural conveniences that add corporate value. And to be self-employed signifies operating as an independent entity.
And the stakes get even higher when we look at the vocabulary from your past classes. There was this exercise distinguishing between explicit and implicit.
Oh, yes.
I see this trip up professionals constantly.
Because the consequences of confusing them are catastrophic. Explicit means the parameters are clearly stated, leaving zero room for interpretation.
Right, like an explicit clause in a contract.
Exactly. It protects your assets. Implicit, however, is something understood but never directly vocalized. It's a handshake in the hallway.
Yeah, and relying on implicit agreements is exactly how 290 million RIA's infrastructure deals fall apart.
Precisely. We also see clarifications in the notes between coworker, which is the functional synonym for colleague and familial terms.
It's like the difference between being an only child versus having siblings, right?
Yes, but the real traps here are the false cognates, specifically the word fault.
Oh man, this one is so dangerous for Portuguese speakers.
It is. They naturally want to associate fault with falta, an absence, or a lack of something.
Yep.
That is a dangerous direct translation.
Totally.
In English, fault is about culpability. It is about who takes the blame for a critical error. If you were trying to say there's a lack of data in the new hydrometeorological system, and you say there is a fault in the data.
You're telling the room that someone made a mistake.
Yes, you're accusing someone.
When what you actually mean is that there is a gap in the market, a gap in the information. You need to use the word gap for an absence and reserve fault for responsibility.
But precision in vocabulary is only half the battle. If your pronunciation is ambiguous, well, your vocabulary is useless. Your notes contain a absolute gauntlet of phonetic challenges.
Yeah, let me read some of these verbatim. Listen to the vowels here. Kids, options, cafeterias, united child, coffee, cough, blamed out, restaurant, bill.
Just reading them out loud, you can hear how easily a non-native speaker could slide off the correct vowel sound.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is why we have to aggressively dismantle false similarities. Let's look at health versus healthy. Health is the foundational noun. It ends softly, with your tongue between your teeth for the thief.
Right, health.
But healthy is the adjective. It demands a sharp definitive E sound at the very end. If you drop that vowel, you change the grammatical function of the word entirely.
Same with cook and cookie, right. The cook is the professional preparing the meal, but the cookie is the baked good.
Exactly. Chew is the mechanical act of breaking down food. Chill is to relax.
Okay, but I want to push back on one pair in particular because it looks so innocent on paper, but it destroys fluency in real time.
Which one?
Woman versus women. They are spelled almost identically except for one letter.
And yet that one letter changes the entire shape of your vocal tract. This is non-negotiable for a female executive, Lilian.
It really is.
The singular, woman, is produced with a rounded, heavy w sound in the first syllable. The plural, women, shifts the first vowel entirely to a sharp, high OS sound.
Even though there's an O in the spelling, it's totally counterintuitive. Give me a high-stakes scenario for this.
Okay, imagine you are in a board meeting discussing the leadership pipeline. You need to say, the women on the executive board expect a detailed assessment from that woman leading the project.
Right.
If you soften the plural and say womans or conflate the vowel sounds, you distract the board. They are no longer thinking about your assessment. They are processing your grammatical error.
Yeah, that slight shift in tone just changes the entire dynamic of a conversation. And speaking of shifting dynamics, we have to talk about how you manage the flow of information when people are asking you questions you don't necessarily want to answer deeply.
You are referring to the conversational phrases in the language use notes.
Yes. Phrases like, it was fine, nothing special, just another regular day, and same old, same old.
I call these deflationary phrases.
They're incredible tools. They aren't just vocabulary. They're like verbal shields.
They are. In a corporate environment, you are constantly bombarded with inquiries. Sometimes you need to manage expectations or simply dismiss trivial questions without appearing rude.
Let's do a quick role play to demonstrate this.
Fine. I will play the role of an overly anxious, micromanaging board member looking for updates on the new ANA integration. You deflect.
I'm ready.
Paulo, I need a comprehensive debrief on the afternoon strategy committee. Was there any groundbreaking consensus on the reservoir telemetry?
Honestly, nothing special. It was just another regular day. Same old, same old.
You see, Lilian, the casual confidence completely neutralizes my corporate anxiety. It shuts down the inquiry while maintaining total control of the conversation.
It's almost like magic. But the vocabulary of control looks very different when you leave the boardroom and go home. Your notes dive into idiomatic expressions that perfectly map onto your life as a corporate mom.
They do. Take the phrase one size fits all. In corporate strategy, proposing a one-size-fits-all product usually implies a flawed assumption that every client has identical needs.
Yeah.
In your household, a one-size-fits-all parenting strategy is equally disastrous.
Oh, completely.
Your two toddlers have completely distinct personalities. You cannot standardize your approach to them.
No, and navigating those personalities usually involves having to run errands or do the chores. And these sound similar, but geographically they are total opposites.
Precisely. Running errands requires outward logistics. You are leaving the headquarters, so to speak. You're going to the bank, the supermarket, the pharmacy.
Yep.
Doing the chores is strictly internal maintenance. You are staying on site to clean, wash dishes, or do laundry.
So let's put this into practice. Imagine it's Saturday, the toddlers are bouncing off the walls, and I had a whole day planned outside. But I look out the window, and it is raining cats and dogs.
A classic idiom for torrential, heavy rainfall. When this extreme weather event occurs, adaptability is required. You must stay in.
Right, cancel the outward logistics.
Exactly. Instead, you eat out in the modern sense by ordering delivery, and you spend time together by transforming the internal maintenance, the chores, into a family bonding activity.
Only a seasoned executive would rebrand household chores as an efficient team-building exercise.
Well, it works.
It does, but that level of structural efficiency is exactly what English grammar demands. This isn't Portuguese where context can bend the rules. English is incredibly rigid.
Which brings us to the prepositions of location and time. This is where B1 students often regress to direct translation. You must compartmentalize these concepts.
So important. Let's break them down.
IN is for broad geographic enclosures. You are in São Paulo. NT represents a specific functional point or institution. You work at Acad Energia.
And on-in.
On-in is utilized for surfaces and specific days. You rest on Saturdays. Interchanging these scrambles your spatial logic in English.
The same strict logic applies to adverbs of frequency, too. It's not just a vague feeling of how often something happens. It's practically a mathematical scale.
It really is.
Like always is a 100% guarantee, usually drops to about 80%. Often is a solid 60%, sometimes is 30%, rarely is 10%. And never is absolute zero.
So practically speaking, Lilian, you always deliver on your corporate KPIs, but you rarely get a moment to just sit in silence.
Highly accurate assessment right there. But look, the most critical grammatical trap for a Brazilian speaker, the one that instantly reveals a lack of fluency, is the conflation of existence and possession.
The battle between there is or there are and the verb to have.
This is huge. Because in Portuguese, the verb ter does all the heavy lifting. It works for everything.
Because Portuguese is a highly context-driven language. Listeners use the surrounding context to understand if you mean you own something or if it just exists. English does not tolerate that ambiguity.
Nope.
English demands to know philosophically what is happening. You must use there is or there are to declare that an entity exists in the universe.
Right, like an affirmative sentence. There is a gap in the Q3 data. Or plural, there are 4 people in my family.
Yes. You cannot walk into a meeting and say, have a problem with the budget.
Never.
You only deploy the verb have for direct ownership or possession. Interrogative, does he have the updated report? Negative, he did not have the authorization.
Yeah, blurring the lines between existence and possession creates severe cognitive friction for a native speaker.
It truly does.
You know who understands the difference between existence and possession, though? Acad Energia.
Oh, I see where this is going.
They know exactly what assets they possess, and they are making sure new infrastructure exists.
You are determined to discuss the company's expansion metrics today.
I am. Because while Lilian is orchestrating her complex routine, Acad's strategy to expand the national interconnected system through transmission auctions is locked in until 2028.
Impressive.
And furthermore, they just launched a 1 million reais edital to support social projects around the Collider hydroelectric plant.
Well, the 1 million RIAs allocation is a strategic ESG initiative. It ensures local development parallels corporate growth.
Yeah.
And it aligns perfectly with their internal innovation programs, such as the Summer Job Initiative.
Oh, yeah. That's where the Avante team innovated drone inspections for transmission lines.
Right. It is a brilliant example of removing human error through technological precision.
And removing error through precision is the central theme of the reading and writing exercises in these class notes. Though I have to admit, we strongly disagree on the value of the reading texts assigned to Lilian this week.
We do.
Yeah.
The curriculum included the unexpected promotion, a narrative about a professional named Lucas. Lucas possessed strong technical skills but suffered from severe imposter syndrome.
Right.
He believed he lacked the background for leadership. However, his supervisor recognized his latent potential, and Lucas successfully transitioned into a highly effective leader.
Okay, but
It is an excellent LinkedIn-style case study on stepping into authority and overcoming psychological barriers.
I'm sorry, but it reads like a generic motivational poster. It's just too soft.
I disagree.
Lilian is a director in the energy sector. She doesn't need fables about imposter syndrome, you know. She needs the hard vocabulary found in the second text, fossil fuels and electricity. That is right in her wheelhouse.
I am not dismissing the industry text, Paulo.
Look at the phrasing. The text explicitly states renewable resources will not run out because they are constantly replenished by nature. The word replenished is a fantastic piece of advanced vocabulary.
I am well aware of its definition. To replenish is to restore a stock or supply to a former level.
Right.
Just as nature replenishes the hydrological reserves for Axia's dams, Lilian must constantly replenish her cognitive reserves to tackle her writing assignments.
Okay, fair point. Nice transition. Because her essay assignment was a serious cognitive load, she had to document her morning routine.
Yes. The prompt required detailing the morning logistics, waking up, brushing teeth, dressing the toddlers, driving to the office, and the daycare drop-off.
Yeah.
The raw actions were all present in her first draft. However, structurally, it was a
A
failure.
failure. That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
It is an accurate assessment of a B1 trap. She simply listed the actions chronologically. It read like an inventory checklist, which causes severe repetition.
I guess that's true.
A polished narrative requires architectural support. It requires sequence words. You must guide the reader's temporal understanding. First, I wake up. Then, I brush my teeth. After that, I get the kids dressed.
It's the difference between throwing a pile of bricks on the ground and actually building a wall.
Exactly. Which is why, following the instructor's feedback, the second draft was remarkably superior. It flowed.
It really did.
In fact, the structure is now so sound that we are formally asking your consent, Lilian, to publish this final version on the school's blog at students.AcademiaBSB.com.br/blog.
Wow, getting published.
Yes. Doing so integrates with the gamification system and will earn you your Estrelinas, your reward points.
And those estrelinas are serious business. But getting those rewards isn't just about output, it's about input. Sections 8 and 9 of the notes draw an incredibly sharp line between the concepts of listening and hearing.
This is a profound physiological and cognitive distinction. Hearing is passive. It is simply your auditory cortex processing sound waves.
Right.
The notes use a highly relatable example. Do you hear your children screaming all day long? Yes. You cannot turn off your ears.
Believe me, I know.
But do you listen to your husband's advice? Yes. Listening requires active, conscious, cognitive engagement.
It takes actual energy to listen. And
Yeah.
that energy is wasted if you are practicing with the wrong materials.
Which is exactly why relying on dubbed television series is detrimental to your CEFRL advancement.
So true.
If you want to attune your ear to the B2 level and beyond, you must immerse yourself in native, real-world English environments.
Right.
Watch actual corporate financial reports. Stream native English news broadcasts.
Right.
You need to expose your brain to the natural cadence, the hesitations, and the complex vocabulary of global business, not a scripted sitcom.
Well, let's test that native cadence right now with the speaking section. The notes feature a text called The Boss at Lunch. I'm going to read a short excerpt verbatim. George is taking his employees out for lunch today. He's the owner of a small technology company. In the end, they all agreed that Italian food would satisfy the greatest number of people, so George reserved a table for 6 at a nice Italian bistro downtown.
And the focus here isn't the story.
No, it's the phonetic pairs hidden within it. Words like gym and gin, or fit and feet.
We return to the physical mechanics of the vocal tract. The shape of your mouth dictates your corporate message. Take gym, the athletic facility. It ends with the lips firmly pressed together to create the M sound.
Gym.
Exactly. Now, gin, the alcoholic beverage, ends with the tongue pressed against the alveolar ridge behind the upper teeth for the N.
So if you tell your team you are heading to the gym after work instead of the gym, you are projecting a wildly different corporate culture.
Precisely. The same applies to fit versus feet. Fit uses a short, relaxed vowel sound. Feet demands that you stretch your lips outward into a smile to produce a long, sustained E.
Right. Linguistic precision requires muscular control.
It does.
Speaking of control, if George is taking 6 people out for a heavy Italian lunch, he is going to need some serious ESG efficiency to manage the aftermath of all those carbs.
I will ignore that incredibly strained transition because the underlying data is actually worth discussing.
I couldn't resist.
Oh.
But the data is amazing. Axia Energy was just integrated into the S&P Global Sustainability Yearbook.
Excellent.
Yeah, they earned this global recognition specifically for their ESG efficiency, environmental, social, and governance, and their sustainable performance metrics.
It is a quantifiable triumph. Inclusion in the S&P Yearbook proves that Axia's governance protocols are not just theoretical. They're yielding measurable, internationally recognized results.
Completely.
And metrics are precisely how we will conclude today's analysis. Let us review the statistics from Lilian's March 31st online class.
The numbers here are just phenomenal. In a single session, Lilian, you demonstrated a vocabulary growth of 49 new words.
Remarkable.
Even more impressive, your oral fluency and speech engagement span hit 90 uninterrupted minutes. That is an absolute marathon of cognitive processing in a second language.
It is highly commendable. However, the data also highlights the persistent challenges of the B1 level. The primary hurdle remains the instinct to rely on direct translation.
Yeah, that's the big one.
You must transition to thinking entirely within the English framework.
Because if you translate, you fall right back into the false cognate traps, like confusing fabric and factory.
A classic industrial error. Fabric is the woven textile.
Right.
Silk, cotton, wool. A factory is the physical infrastructure, the manufacturing plant itself.
Very different things.
You cannot confuse the product with the facility. Precision, as always, is paramount.
You really have to train your brain to just live in the language without relying on Portuguese as a crutch.
Which brings me to my final point. Listen to me very carefully, Lilian. Academia BSB operates on a strict, proven methodology.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
Engaging fully with the texts, analyzing your class notes, and completing your homework are non-negotiable components of your professional development. We supply the architectural blueprints for your fluency, but you are the one who must build it. Execute the work. Get it done.
A tough but, necessary directive.
Yeah.
You have spent over 20 years executing complex strategies at your company, and now you're applying that same executive discipline to your English.
Exactly.
Which leaves us with one final thought to mull over today.
Let's hear it.
Axia Energia just invested 290 million reais to modernize the hydrology networks across Brazil. They are deploying advanced monitoring stations purely to measure the flow of water and prevent the system from running dry.
Right.
So, Lilian, as you navigate the chaos of being a director and a mother, what kind of monitoring stations are you setting up in your own daily routine to ensure your English fluency doesn't dry up?
A vital question for continuous improvement. Keep practicing, Lilian. We will be closely monitoring your metrics.
Until next time on Acad FM, keep listening, keep learning, and keep leading.